Hollow Creek had not changed in 50 years. The same crooked lampposts lined the fog-soaked streets, the same weather-beaten houses leaned under the weight of decades. But for Detective Claire Wren, the air felt heavier, tainted with the ghosts of an unsolved murder that had haunted the town since 1975. She wasn't even born when Martha Kellings was found in her parlor, blood pooling beneath the piano, the killer vanishing without a trace. The case went cold before Claire's first birthday, sealed away in dusty files at the county archives. But when a recent inheritance forced her back to the town she swore she'd never return to, the old wound reopened. The Kellings estate had been abandoned all these years, its windows boarded, its iron gate rusted shut. Yet when Claire walked past that morning, she noticed something impossible, one upstairs curtain swaying as if someone had been watching her. Her pulse quickened. The house had been vacant for half a century. No one lived there. No one should have been there. The cold case file in her bag felt suddenly heavier, as if it were pulling her toward that house, toward something that didn't want to be found. The county archives smelled of mildew and forgotten years. Claire spread the Kellings file across the table, pages yellowed and brittle, crime scene photos curling at the edges. She'd looked at them 100 times as a rookie, but now, something new caught her eye. It was a black and white photograph of Martha Kellings' parlor. The piano loomed in the corner, just as the reports described. But this image showed something the others didn't. Barely visible in the shadowed reflection of the piano's polished surface was a man's face. The problem was, that photograph didn't exist in the official evidence log. Her hands tightened around the paper. The man's features were distorted, but not enough to hide the jagged scar across his cheek. Whoever he was, he had been standing inside the room while police took the original photos, meaning he'd returned to the scene. Claire's phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A low, rasping voice spoke, almost a whisper. You weren't supposed to find that picture. The line went dead. The archives, once silent, seemed to hum with a faint echo, like distant footsteps moving between the shelves. Claire's search for the scarred man led her to an address that shouldn't have existed, an old boarding house on the outskirts of town, listed under the name Walter Greaves. Her stomach knotted when she read the date of birth, 1932. If he was alive, he would be 93 years old. The landlady was reluctant to talk, her eyes darting toward the dim hallway behind her. No one by that name lives here, she said quickly, but Claire noticed her trembling hand clutching the doorframe. Then a frail voice called from inside, let her in, Alice. Walter Greaves sat in a rocking chair, his face as creased as the photographs in Claire's bag, but the scar across his cheek was unmistakable. She could feel the weight of 50 years pressing into that tiny room. I saw who killed her, Walter rasped, his eyes glassy. But I never told a soul, because he saw me too. Claire leaned forward. Who was it? Walter's lips quivered as if forming the name, but before he could speak, the light bulb above them flickered, and the hallway floorboards groaned under heavy, deliberate steps. Walter's gaze darted to the doorway, his voice dropping to a terrified whisper. He's here. The footsteps stopped just outside the doorway. Claire's hand hovered over her holster, the air thick with the smell of dust and something metallic, blood. A shadow shifted against the thin curtain, tall and rigid. Then, without warning, the light went out completely. Walter's breath quickened in the dark. He never forgives, he whispered. He never leaves. Claire flicked on her flashlight. The beam sliced through the black, but the doorway was empty. Only the slow creak of the rocking chair broke the silence, until a sudden crash shattered the air. The window beside Walter's chair exploded inward, shards scattering across the floor. When she turned the light back on him, Walter was slumped forward, a thin crimson line running from his throat. The rocking chair swayed, but he was gone, lifeless. Outside, somewhere beyond the broken glass, Claire caught a glimpse of him. A man in a dark coat, moving with impossible speed toward the edge of the woods. And for the first time in 50 years, Hollow Creek's residents began to speak. Phones rang. Doors slammed. Curtains twitched. The town had been silent for half a century, but tonight, everyone knew the killer was back. The trail led Claire straight to the Kellings estate. The front gate, rusted shut for decades, now hung open as if inviting her in. Every instinct screamed to turn back, but the weight of Walter's blood on her hands pushed her forward. Inside, the air was thick and stale, carrying the faint scent of rotting wood. Her flashlight swept over peeling wallpaper, overturned furniture, and the piano, still standing where Martha Kellings had been found. Then she saw it. The floorboards in front of the piano were newer than the rest, there was a slightly different shade. Kneeling down, she pried one loose, her fingers trembling. Beneath, wrapped in layers of yellowed newspaper, was a bundle of photographs, every one showing a different woman, all dead, all posed exactly like Martha. The dates on the back spanned 5 decades. A voice echoed from the shadows behind her. "You shouldn't have come here, detective." She turned. The scarred man stepped forward, holding the same knife from the crime scene photos, its blade catching the beam of her flashlight. And in that moment, Claire realized the truth: this was never one murder. It had never gone cold. It had never stopped.